Hi, welcome to the Cleveland Browns Dawgpound South podcast, part of the Fanatical L's Network, part of the Fans First Sports Network. Before we all get into watching the divisional games this weekend and root for anybody but Baltimore, I thought that I would do a quick little podcast about the salary cap. There's a lot of misconceptions about the salary cap, and as I've said before, it's easy to manipulate, hard to maintain. Good GMs know how to maintain it. Bad GMs don't. And they end up being former GMs. And it happens quite a bit. Well, first of all, I use, there are two primary websites, Spot Trek, and Over the Cap. Over the Cap is probably the better of the two. If you really want to know what the cap is, what the situation is, they update quicker than Spot Track, and they also update quicker than the Players Union, who's occasionally on social media will put cap numbers out, and they will be weeks, maybe even a month old. So if you're really, really interested in the NFL salary cap, let me give you just a few little simple pointers. First of all, Over the Cap is very good at estimating the future cap. We won't know what the cap number is until March. They guess it's going to be about $242 million. Now, last year, they made an educated guess, and they only missed by $200,000. In my book, that's pretty damn good. Last week, I had said that the Browns were 13 million over the cap. Well, lo and behold, over the cap updated. So now they are roughly $17 million over the cap. Now you're going to hear a lot of people panic about this. Oh my God, they're over the cap. Oh, what are they going to do? Oh, they're going to go into cap hell. Not necessarily. First of all, currently for 2024, they have 56 players signed to the roster as of right now. I know it's far from 90, but you got to take into consideration that once the league year starts on March 13th, players will be added. You would hope that they were going to re-sign some key free agents. Shelby Harris, Maurice Hurst. Those are two right there I'm hoping for. Michael Dung, Nick Harris. There's a list of players they can sign to one-year contracts. So they're going to put players on the roster, and they're going to be active in free agency. They were last year. Andrew Berry fixed the defense last year. When he first got to Cleveland in 2020, he fixed the offensive line. So now he's got to take some key positions and fix them. So he needs cap room. Like I said, 56 players are currently signed. Only the top 51 salaries count against the cap. Let me repeat that. Top 51 salaries count against the cap. So player number 52 down to 90, once they get the full roster, they don't count against the cap. And that's based on yearly salary. So if you have someone making $975,000 at 51 and someone making $850, the guy making $850 isn't going to count. And then if they're making the same amount of money, the guys with the more service time count. The ones with less service time don't. So right now, the salary cap's at 252. The Browns are obviously going to have to restructure like they did last year. Starting with Deshaun Watson. They restructured him last year. They can do it again this year. They can create, like, if they want to, $33.6 million in extra cap space. Now, what goes into restructure? First of all, you've got to understand what the cap hit. You'll hear people say cap hit. What's the cap number? The cap number is basically a player's salary, base salary, their prorated bonus, and any guarantees they have. So right now, Deshaun Watson's cap hit is $63.9 million. you are not going to have a player on your roster that's occupying almost $64 million of the salary. So that's why they have to restructure. And the player has to be has to agree to it. And most players do, because what happens is they convert the salary into the bonus money. Now, so how do they do that? Well, basically, they create years that the player is on the payroll, no longer with the team. They're called voidable years, and this prorates the bonus, the upfront cash, the money they get right away over years where the player isn't here. I'll give you an example. Jadeveon Clowney. He, I believe, his last voidable year was 2023. He may have a voidable year next year. They gave him a lot of upfront money, a lot of incentives to play in Cleveland. One good year, one whiny, crappy year. So that's what they do. They create years that the player isn't here, just to prorate the bonus longer. Like if you give somebody a $20 million bonus, you sign them for 2 years, you put 2 voidable years on it. That's $5 million a year. 2 years of the player on the payroll, 2 years the player off the payroll. So some players who are candidates for restructures besides Deshaun Watson, you have Amari Cooper, Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett, Joel Bitonio, and Wyatt Teller. Each of those could be restructured. The key thing for this offseason is, what are they going to do with Nick Chubb? Nick Chubb has one more year, basically. His cap number is 15.8. What you want, he has no guarantees. So what you would want to do if you want to keep Nick Chubb, and what I've heard, he's hitting all his benchmarks in his rehab, you would restructure his contract, add a couple of years to it, then add some voidable years, and you could, realistically, that 15.8 can turn into about 8.5 million, and that's a savings. That's a savings of over $7 million. So what kind of money would Cooper require? You could restructure, knock that. Right now his cap number is 23.8 million. You could restructure him, add a couple of years, add a couple of voidable years, get him for 12.5. That's how it just depends on how much the owner wants to pay in upfront money. So, are there any players that could get traded to save money on the cap? Yes, there are. You've heard a lot about Greg Newsome. Since the emergence of Cam Mitchell, he is probably the most likely to be expendable. Martin Emerson has played far better than anybody would have thought. So right now, his if you were to trade him, his dead money, and I'll explain dead money here in a minute, his dead cap money would be 1.7, but you would save 2.4 million. And unfortunately, the next person up that would be a trade possibility to save money would be Wyatt Teller. His dead cap space, dead money, would be 5.2, and the savings would be 6.4. The 6.4 is above the dead cap of 5.2. So just on those two players, you could save $8.8 million, almost $9 million. So that's a possibility. Trading for players is a possibility. Andrew Berry's been done exceptionally well. That'll come after they get down to the 242, which they have to be down to 4 o'clock Eastern on March 13th. Dead cap. Everybody's afraid of dead cap money. You hear that and people panic. Oh, too much. Well, let me put it to you simply. It's like the interest on a credit card. We just came off the holiday season. I'm sure a lot of you put a lot of Christmas gifts on credit cards. I put some on credit cards. And you figure, well, I'll pay after the first of the year, because a lot of people order online. Amazon always gets it quick. My God, I ordered stuff for my wife. It was here in less than a day. So that's what cap money is. It's the interest, kind of like the interest on a credit card. You can afford to have some. This past year, the Browns' dead cap was about $15 million. And we're talking about players like John Johnson III, Baker Mayfield, Clowney, those kind of players that you did not re-sign or traded, and you had to keep the dead cap. So right now it's like $15 million. That's not a lot. That is not a lot. There are other teams that have way more, but that you can live with. So the whole idea about doing restructures, and you'll hear people say, well, they're just, they're saving money now and they're going to pay for it later. That's true. That's true. Right now, the Browns have on their 2025 roster, they only have 33 players signed, and that's normal. That's normal a year out. You will pick up players this year. This past year, they signed Okoronkwo and Dalvin Tomlinson. They both signed multi-year deal. Juan Thornhill, he's another one. He's on the payroll for 2024. So you sign players and you give them the small base salary, the notorious 1.08 base salary their first year, that everybody freaked out about because Deshaun Watson got it. And commentators who don't know anything about salary cap went out and said, well, it's just in case he gets suspended. I hate to tell you this, but that's standard in the NFL. Everybody gets that. Aaron Rodgers got that from the Jets. So stop it. So that's what they did with other players they signed this year. They redo their contract. Amari Cooper, as soon as they traded for him, they redid his contract. He got $1.08 million as his first year salary with the Browns. So they will go out and sign players to multi-year contracts. They'll be front-loaded. That's what that means. Put all that cash. Player gets it first. They don't object. They're getting that money up front. Again, the owner has to agree to it. The owner has to pay that upfront money. Jimmy don't care. He will pay that upfront money. So basically, what we're going to be seeing here in before the beginning of the season, they will try and sign key free agents that were here last year. I have mentioned a few. I would keep Mike Ford and Matthew Adams as well. Michael Dunn seems to always re-sign. I would even re-sign Zadarius Smith. When they traded for him, they picked up his $12 million salary. You can sign him to a couple-year contract, maybe an additional 2 years with some voidable years, load it up in the front, and you'll still be perfectly good. So hopefully some of that, hopefully some of that's, kind of easy to understand. I know I understand it because I'm an accountant, and that's just the nature of my brain. But the key to it is to have a GM who can be able to replace players in the draft and undrafted rookie free agents. I think Andrew Berry's done an excellent job. Let's look at this past year. Cameron Mitchell, if they trade Greg Newsome, he would go into the slot. And I thought he had a great year this year. DeJuan Jones, everybody loves DeJuan Jones. If Bill Callahan comes up to Andrew Berry and says, I can turn him into a great starting left tackle in the NFL, guess who's probably going to get traded? Jedrick Wills. So, it just depends on the player. Another one, who else? Who else had a great year this year? Cameron Mitchell, DeJuan Jones, Ronnie Hickman. Good Lord. Undrafted rookie free agent. Now, I know Texan games, he looked like a rookie, but he'll be fine. Kid's got skills. So that's what happens. You constantly try to replace the players that you're going to get rid of with players that are cheaper, rookies, draft picks. Andrew Berry likes to sign young, when he can, likes to sign young free agents on their second contract. Okoronkwo comes to mind. Get them on their way up, getting them in their prime. That way they're in their prime, they're inexpensive. So hopefully this made a little sense to you. I know a lot of people are afraid of the NFL salary cap. I was at first. And I'll tell you to my extent, I will never understand how the NBA contract system works and how the Major League Baseball contract works. Those are total mysteries to me. I even start to think about it and I get a headache. But I love the NFL, so I was determined to learn this. Now, am I an expert? No, I am not an expert. But the basic thing you want on your payroll, you don't want anybody to be a large percentage of your payroll. Right now, Deshaun Watson's cap number, like I said, is about $64 million. They'll redo that. But right now, he is over 23% of the payroll. That's not good. That's why you restructure. You backload. You front load it, and then you bump out with extra years, voidable years, to stretch out the front-loaded money. So hopefully that made some sense. Just remember, as we go into the new league year, pay attention to the East-West Shrine Game and the Senior Bowl. There'll be reports of who the Browns talk to. The game is really not that important. What's important is who the scouts are talking to, who they're scheduling interviews with. Same with the combine. Who did they talk to? And that'll help you in the draft. So that's it for today. Salary Cap 101 class, you're dismissed. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for downloading and viewing here at the Fanatical Elves Network. We appreciate it. We're fans just like you. We love our Cleveland Browns, and we cannot give up on them. As I told John on Thursday night, I never say wait till next year. I said, let's just reload. And that's what this team is going to do in 2024. They're going to reload. I have perfect faith in that. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And everybody, as always, go Browns.